Welcome back to r/AholeTax, where jerks get exactly what they deserve in a very satisfying way. And if you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our awesome community, and without any further ado, let's dive into the stories. And the first one is titled, Literal Absentee Do-It-Yourself Landlord Tries to Screw Me Over, Loses Everything He Tried to Game From Me. Once upon a time, when I was young and single and found myself flush with a surplus of cash, I decided to embark upon single male living and found a townhouse for rent in an HOA community that seemed like a pretty decent deal. It was a separate unit with one level that was theoretically ADA but never got anyone to rent it. It took me 2 full years to figure out why, and it was the worst absentee landlord in the world. He was headed off to Ecuador to live full-time in this weird yoga retreat thing and chase after young Ecuadorian beach bunnies or something. Imagine every greasy, balding, ponytail hippie you ever met and then add complete incompetence to that. And an inherited set of properties that he had slumlorded as a living but sold off except for one unit at this HOA, his own place. Landlord had hired the property management company that managed the HOA property, maintenance, groundskeeping, etc. to rent the place, but insisted on doing the paperwork himself. Since I was the first renter he had had for this particular unit, he had lived there previously and was moving to Ecuador, he approved me, had me hand him cash for the cleaning deposit, warning, signed paperwork that turned out was not the paperwork the management company needed, and then flew to his new home in Ecuador. That night. He handed me the key to the townhouse and drove off in a cheap rental car, and the last thing he said to me was,
"If there's a problem, I expect you to work it out with the management company. I won't be available for a month or so."
At this point, klaxons should have been going off in my head. When I walked into the unit, it was trashed. Like messy frat house moved out trashed. I called his number, then I called the property management company and said, "This is not cleaned at all." Back and forth went on for a good while, but it was still a house. I should have walked, but I didn't at that point. Eventually, the management company got him to admit he left the unit trashed. I would not move in at all. I was able to show the receipt for the $600 cleaning fee he signed hurriedly for and submit that, so they waived the security deposit they would normally have required and said they would require landlord to pay it. So it all worked out. 3 months later, AholeLandlord is back in town to pare down his material possessions. In other words, sell crap he left behind. And wouldn't you know it, the water heater in the unit died. I contacted the management company, they contacted him, and he said,
"I will take care of it."
He showed up one day, broke the lock getting in. His rationale was that he owned the place, so he could break the lock if he wanted to, without putting 24-hour notice up that he was going to be working on it. I got a call at work from a neighbor and drove home as fast as I could to find AholeLandlord sputtering as the new water heater ruined 2 bookshelves worth of hardback books and rare board games. At that point, I had already called the management company, and they not only had photographs of AholeLandlord's screw-ups, but also took him aside and told him I could prosecute him for criminal trespassing. I was furious, but landlord promised he would get money from his insurance company to fix everything and I would get replacements for my stuff. Guess what? Never happened. I eventually rebuilt my collection, but at that point I was done with him entirely and more or less demanded that the property management company be the only ones involved. Oddly enough, they were pretty much on that too. When I decided to move closer to my work, taking me from up to an hour to get home driving by car to less than 5 minutes by bicycle, I was torn because frankly, once I had figured this a-hole's modus operandum for the rental, I could do pretty much whatever so long as he got his check. He never checked email, so if there was an issue I went through the management company and inevitably they just said, "Go ahead and take care of it, busted appliance etc. and take it off the rent." He always sent screaming emails threatening to evict me if he didn't get his full rent payment because he had a bad building, but I was on a long-term lease, 2 years, and had locked in what was then above average pricing for the building, but as it went on was something like 1/3 the rent in my area for my place. The $200 jump in monthly rent was one thing, but if I was honest about everything, saving $200 a month in rent meant I was spending 2 hours a day in traffic and $150 or more in gas. The new place meant I could walk pretty much anywhere. On top of that, dealing with a whole landlord over the internet for the past 2 years was too much, and I knew he would try to jack my rent $300 above what the place was worth the minute that 2 years was up, which was about what I was going to pay for the new place. And the guy still had not given me the money for my books and games that he had ruined, so I made sure to send in the notification exactly on time as per his instructions to the property management company, who at this point knew me and knew what was likely to happen when I moved out. And true to form, he did exactly what we all expected him to do. He attempted to claim the cleaning deposit as security and then said I would have to pay for the damage I caused due to my negligence with the water heater and pay to have the unit recarpeted. There was no carpet anywhere in the house because part of the reason he didn't want to pay for cleaning was because he tore up all the carpet from my unit before I moved in and then decided he could just paint the floor instead. Fortunately, or unfortunately, it was an old hardwood floor and not the subfloor. I had all of his shenanigans documented to a fair well. I had a signed document from the landlord along with a signed letter indicating that it was due to his incompetence, as well as the notification and photographs of the damage he had caused trying to fix something outside of his experience. I even had a photograph of him with water spraying him in the face because he tried to solder copper pipe, and when that did not work he tried to duct tape it shut. To be clear, I did absolutely no work on his property whatsoever. I called the property management company that he had hired to do all the work, and when he screwed up installing the water heater in my unit and ruined the carpets as well as a bunch of my stuff, I called his insurance agency because he was living in Ecuador and could not be bothered to deal with his properties other than to collect a rent check. So, when he pulled his now infamous bullcrap, I was able to trot out all the documentation the property management company and I had kept. And I still had a copy of the insurance claim I had filed with the full list of ruined property and the total he signed and dated that he had in fact collected money from. By this time I had already moved everything out of the unit except for a cheap old laptop, a folding table, a chair I found in the alleyway and my cleaning supplies because I was working from home for a week while packing up my stuff and moving out. I sent him an email with the management company CC'd, but also CC'd a friend of mine who worked at a law firm at the time as the front desk receptionist, but the domain was a well-known law firm in my city and had handled landlord's divorce once upon a time. The email in legal terms, but too long didn't read, said, "So should I send this letter of demand to the insurance company? Because I'm confused, and as I recall you still owe me somewhere between $1,000 to $1,200 in personal property damages you never paid due to your mishandling of the water heater installation and thus the full list of other landlord stuff. Should I contact your property company and insurance agent as per your standing instructions?" 5 minutes after I sent that email, I got a call from the property management company saying that they would take care of everything from that point on, and that if I had not heard from them by Thursday, to expect courier documents on Friday morning. Friday morning, I woke up to a courier hand delivering me a $4,250 check and an itemized receipt for everything the landlord had tried to screw me over. It included the cleaning fee, but surprisingly also the standard security deposit and the owed money for damages that he had received from the insurance company but never paid me, and a full refund of my last month's rent. I found out about 4 years later that the HOA had a lien on the property for a year but could not start foreclosure until I moved out, so they backdated me and refunded my rent check. Turns out a whole landlord was pocketing the rent but had not paid utilities or HOA dues for 6 months, which was handled through the property management company. So the HOA foreclosed on the unit, the property management company got 15% and the place sold for $600,000 after they hired a condo flipper. I get the impression they were all just sitting there, hovering, waiting for me to hand over the keys to the property management company, and then the minute I was out the door, they were filing paperwork and lawsuits and saying, Go get the renter completely clear of this, no liens, no liens. Because if I could have shown that the owner still owed me any money at all, I could theoretically tie up the repo of the unit. Landlord tried to sue them, but for some reason did not want to leave Ecuador. I would like to imagine it was a warrant for his arrest for insurance fraud, but still. And wow guys, this guy got completely destroyed. Do you think he really deserved what was coming to him? Let us know in the comments. In addition, the whole absentee landlord thing reminds me, a friend of mine also has a landlord that is kind of absent. I think the last time my friend has seen this landlord was maybe around 2 years ago. And then around 2 months ago, my friend got a letter in the mail from the police saying that they are looking for the landlord. Unfortunately, since I am in Thailand, I don't have much contact anymore with my friends, so I have no idea what has happened since then. Still, kind of a scary experience if you ask me. And the last one is titled, Ghost Me to Use a Shady Chuck in a Truck After I Get Your Previously Denied Claim Approved to Commit Fraud. Enjoy your $20,000+ mistake. I was reminded of this story by a comment in another sub and I thought you lot might enjoy it. About a decade ago, I was selling roofing for a damn fine company run by excellent people and I was working a hailstorm. I had gotten a couple of this guy's neighbors, and while this guy had blown me off my first time through the neighborhood, he flagged me down once he saw a few of my signs on his street. He seemed like a nice enough guy, maybe a little abrasive, but he was cool enough. He asked me what was happening with the other roofs, and I was honest when I said I had only met with one adjuster so far, and there was less damage on that end of the street, but I'd got it bought, was confident I would get the same result on the rest of them, and could almost definitely get his bought too, as I could see hail hits from the curb. And by the way guys, just quickly in between, for some reason I was thinking that working a hailstorm means something along the lines of working really hard, but I guess in this case we have to take OP's words literal. Anyway, he tells me he had filed a claim on his own the day after the storm and it had been denied. I had him get the paperwork and it was pretty obvious that the adjuster had not been on the roof for more than 10 minutes, so I gave him another qualifying date of loss to file a new claim with and told him that I would get him bought if he gave me the work. He chuckled and said, "Why the hell not?" and signed my contingency agreement. I know that the contingency is largely unenforceable, but it does grant me agency to work with his adjuster on his behalf. I then told him to give the adjuster my name and phone number and that the adjuster and I would set the appointment together. I came back by a couple days later to measure, diagram and inspect the roof so I could easily point out the damage, and while I needed the diagram myself, many adjusters go a big rubbery one when a roofer hands them a good diagram from the jump. I also walked the rest of the property to make sure I got all qualifying damage handled with the one claim. I then met with the adjuster, got the roof, gutters, window seals, AC fence, some painting, and even got his fences power washed. This was great news for me, because having 3 or more trades on the claim got me an extra 20% added to the payout for overhead and profit as the general contractor. The dude was ecstatic and couldn't wait to get all this extra stuff done. I told him it would take a couple days for the adjuster to submit and have his report approved, and he should give me a call when he gets the report and I would get him scheduled. He agreed, thanked me profusely and gave me a hearty handshake. I had worked with this particular adjuster before and we got along very well, as I was his favorite at our company. Some of the guys would be dicks to adjusters if they didn't buy the roof right away, but that is not me. You catch more flies, right? So he gave me a call a couple days later when he was dropping the approved report in the mail, and I called the client to let him know we could start making product selections. No response. I would call twice a day, leaving one voicemail and then send a text. After about 4 days of this, I swung by his place. I had been in other areas throughout this time, as our dispatch just rotated the calls, making us work all over town instead of even trying to give us leads where we were already working. I put in a lot of windshield time. I really just wanted to make sure that everything is okay and understand why he went from so excited to work with me to full-on ghosting. When I got there, my sign was gone, replaced by one from a company I had never heard of. I was pissed and confused, so I knocked the door. No answer. He happened to pull into the driveway as I was walking back to the truck, so I got to confront him. He half-ass apologized and explained that another roofer had come by the day after the adjuster meeting and had offered him a significant discount. Enough of a discount that he was going to end up pocketing at least a couple grand, plus the insurance value for the other trades on the claim that Chuck in a truck could not handle, and the sales guy convinced him this was legal based on how the paperwork was filed, citing a couple verbatim fake statutes that created the loophole. He called companies like mine
stupid, greedy thieves
for operating within the law, and this dude bought it hook, line and sinker. I tried to explain exactly how all of that is pretty damn illegal, that the quoted statutes were not real, and that I had a highlighted copy of the booklet issued by the state if he wanted proof. We had a seminar on the relevant bits of the law as part of training, and a mandatory meeting when anything changed, all led by a lawyer. And the dude cut me off with the condescending,
"Just a smidge too hard double shoulder pat,"
and a,
"I found a better deal. Chuck said you would say all that. Sorry about your bad luck,"
and turned to walk inside. I stopped him and said, "Hey man, while you're definitely making a terrible decision that will bite you in the butt, I get it, and would probably do the same thing if I didn't know what I do. Sincerely, no hard feelings. Here's my card again. Promise me you will keep it. When your roof leaks in 3 months, call me back and I will promise I will make it right without rubbing it in your face, for real, no BS. I promise not to rub your nose in your mistake." He chuckled and then looked me in the eye as I nodded and extended the card. He took it silently and then made eye contact again. When he did, I said, "I truly hope it works out for you," as I extended my hand for a handshake, "but please call me when it doesn't." And then I left. I got the call almost exactly 3 months later. Some, if not most companies, cut their checks payable to both the homeowner and the contractor, so the homeowner endorses the check and hands it over, cutting another check for the deductible. In this case, the homeowner swapped checks with the company check for his overage being post-dated 5 business days to protect the company from fraud. Why he bought that, I don't know, but the check bounced, and because good old Chuck used a now dead burner, he could not get a hold of him, go figure. Anyway, when he called, he knew how badly he screwed up and thought he had learned his lesson. I got a copy of the insurance report from my buddy and charged him every nickel of their payout, including the 10 and 10, and made an extra $400 by having my brother power wash his fence, calling in a favor. At the end of the day, he paid about $21,500 out of pocket for a claim that would have cost him about $4,000 had he just stuck with me as agreed. And you bet your ass I made a snide comment after everything was done, and he handed me the final check. And honestly guys, I am really starting to enjoy r/AholeTax, but then again, what I already see coming, unfortunately, this is not really the biggest subreddit in existence, so at some point, and I would say maybe around 1 or 2 months, we will run out of stories. But anyway, let's enjoy it until then. And guys, unfortunately, we have already reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and if you haven't already, please also go to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where I upload exclusive Reddit videos starting at just $3 a month. This is a great way to support me in case you are interested, and the chance for me to become independent from YouTube revenue. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.